Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Jim Benton. Welcome to the Chorus Daily Briefing. I'm with the CEO of the Center of Sales Excellence, Ian Foley. Hey, Ian, thanks for joining us today.
Good to see you, and pleasure to have everyone on the call here.
How is Tuesday, and how is work from home treating you?
Well, I got my coffee, which is a good start. The weather is a bit hazy, but no matter what, it's a great day to get cracking. So good to have to be here.
That's true. You know something's wrong when it's raining in May in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that wasn't what I promised, is it?
Yeah. Ian, any big surprise from your standpoint over the last 8 weeks from how people are working right now?
That's the thing. So we work a lot with folks all over the world, everyone from places like Singapore to Europe and Australia. I think the one commonality is that how people have said that the changes are unprecedented of what they understood it was to be. They had an inclination that there was going to be change, but it's just the constant ripple across even just something basic like being at home with your children. You know, how do you navigate that? How do you and I think everyone's gone a lot more understanding around that, but still it's like, you know, you as the individual they're trying to work it out. I think that's the one thing I've heard a lot about is how do I navigate my home environment and still do a great job. So that's the hard thing I've constantly heard all over the world.
I haven't figured it out yet. Have you?
No. In fact, my son said he's going to come and bomb this video conference course. I had told him not to go. That's probably not a good idea, you know.
Anything goes right now. So
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the Center of Sales Excellence and how that came about, and specifically how people are using it today.
Yeah, so well, one thing is that I've had a chance to do a few startups myself. I felt that going through that, I wish I had someone I could chat to or engage with on a regular basis. And I felt, well, it's really hard to do that when people are living busy lives. So I thought let's create a whole database of sales insights, sales tactics, strategies, playbooks, and make them available in a knowledge management platform that can be accessed by CEOs, founders, heads of sales at startups. Because we realize that I think it's about 60% of startups are founded by technically led, super smart people, but they've never really sold before. So, you know, if you have advisors, they're not going to be available all day, every day. So we teamed up with Guru, a great platform, knowledge platform, and we ingest our content, these 450 playbooks, into Guru, so people join their everyday workflow, whether on Gmail or Slack, can just in the browser click, gain access to insights to help them perform.
Ian, of the 450 tactics you have, what would you say are like the top 3 to 4 most relevant ones right now?
Well, we've seen you see the statistics as how things have changed. I think the pricing has been up there as one which a lot of people think, how the heck do I do pricing in this environment? I mean, there's this thing that we've never experienced for a long time called deflation starting to occur, where, you know, what is the value, what's the reason why a company may want to commit to pricing now? They think in, I don't know, 6 months or even less, that price may be lower. That's the challenge. How do you manage that environment? And one of the things we're seeing a lot of people are trying to understand is, how do I go out and create a pricing strategy? How do I use surveys to engage with customers to ask them what is sustainable and long term, what's mutually valuable, and kind of focusing much more on how do we create long-term engagement and price to keep people engaged with us for the long term.
Yeah, pricing's tricky because when you're in crisis mode, you could make swift changes that could be very long lasting if not done correctly.
Yeah.
And the data, the most recent data we're looking at from this week, this is looking at payment terms. And what we were looking at before is that the net 30 terms were 76% of all deals. It dropped down to 56%, but it's finally bouncing back up. It's at 63% of the deals are talking about net 30 terms within the conversation. So we're seeing a little bit of a return to normal. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but we're feeling that in the data. Are you seeing that as you work with your clients?
Not quite. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting that this data's come through. I'm surprised that it's coming back so soon. I mean, the one thing that, I mean, the concern I have is are we ensuring that we're sustaining customers for the long term? I think that's the most important thing. Is that I'd be more open to having a promotional pricing cut for a longer term customer. It's like you need to find ways. How do you sustain your customers beyond the typical 12-month period? Or I think that's going to be super important. It's going to be at the end of this challenging time is those who have managed to retain their customers. That's going to be the most important thing. And I think that the challenge is that maybe coming up so soon to try and get back to normal isn't a reflection of reality. I'm really surprised at those figures. What do you think is causing that information?
I think as we've been sharing the data, I think that a lot of companies didn't have strategies to really drive a net 30. It just sort of happened. It was what we'd asked for, and therefore customers would sign deals. I think as we saw the shift away from net 30, sales reps had a hard time saying, no, we need net 30. And now we're starting to see more deliberate practices put in place, more incentives put in place. We're hearing a lot more focus on building proposals for the CFO, deeper ROI calculators. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing small incentives to say, look, if you can do net 30, here's what we'll give you in return. So we'll dig more into that. But I think that people now know there's been a shift and they've been able to build programs to address it. Right. I think that the one area that I've seen a lot of people asking about is that, okay, well, we may be able to stabilize prices now, but most of the businesses in SaaS are on maybe year-long contracts. So Q1 2021, I think it's going to the real challenge is going to be how do you sustain yourself through that period? Because it's a year from now when most VC-backed firms have 9 to 12 months in burn. Contracts for a year, so that it's going to be Q1 2021 is the one to prepare for, I think. Ian, you mentioned of the 450, number one was pricing. So you're seeing a lot of focus on pricing strategies. What was the second topic that you're seeing most viewed? Yeah, so around sales compensation. So how do you manage and adjust sales compensation in this time? So that seems to be another key one. Another one is around outbound messaging. How do you engage? How do you sort of change messaging to reflect consumer and business customers you're working with? What's the way to engage with them? And I think there's so much out there on that. I mean, I think you more could almost throw a brick out the window and hit someone with another idea how to message during the coronavirus. So I think that's well and truly harrowed territory. But it's I think it's a common refrain, like, how do I deal with this? But there's lots of folks who've got different approaches. Some I think I've seen approaches work well are those which don't you want to harp on about it, but just thinking, how can I help you? How can I build your business and try and get in the heads of your customers first and foremost? Yeah. I think it keeps changing. So this is our most recent data. Cold call dials are still down 32%, though for the last week of May 4th, they came back up. Connect rate has held steady. It's come up a little bit, so it's still at 10%. That validates what we're hearing. But I think to your point on the messaging, now we laugh at the way people maybe would use COVID in the calls, but it's just very dynamic. I mean, day after day, it's sort of what is the relevant way to connect and how do we stay authentic versus starting to get caught in just using what we used last week, which is completely not relevant a week later. Yeah, I think using COVID-19 in a subject line or content now is kind of passe. It's like people are trying to deal with real issues in terms of the business now. The reaction time about this is a challenge is past. Now it's like, how do I build a business in this time? So I think that's you need to appeal to those core business drivers, and not the issue around how it was caused, but like, how do we sustain businesses and how do we build great businesses together? Ian, from all of your years running companies, I understand that your ability to engage with people, coming up with unique ways this is something near and dear to my heart as well, has been a strong suit. What are some of the interesting ways that people can engage and get people's attention from an outbound motion today?
Well, I always enjoyed a very simple slogan that this guy you may know called Brian Burns. He's a really interesting sales guy. He instilled in me this concept of give, give, get. Very simple way to understand it, which is basically you can't hammer someone over the head. I always remember his funny line is that if you were went up to in a party and you started telling everyone what you wanted, people would thinking you're very strange and walk away. His concept the same is that you engage with someone, they what's the weather like? Why are you here? Nice food, etc. So that is the sort of the stuff that it's surprising how many people have this work head and then social head. It's amazing that you can. It's surprising that people just have that completely dichotomy in their head. People want to be engaged. You sell to people. That's the piece that I've enjoyed, and it's almost the psychology of sales that it fascinates me.
If you were to put that into practice, what does some of that look like today? What would be an example or something you've done in the past that's creative where that's just resonated?
Yeah, so I often find that, a lot of people come up with quite interesting and I think, in my opinion, quite complex things to try and do that and give. But actually, there's some very simple things you can do. There are some great research reports written by Tier 1 organizations like Harvard Business School, McRae Report, or McKinsey, or Bain, and it's just the ability to share insight, knowledge, and say, I thought this may be interesting. I know that you're in this position. This thought could be interesting to you. So you're giving knowledge, giving advice, and you don't at all sell. You're just trying to develop a rapport with someone, and so that's a very light touch. You could invite someone to a webinar that maybe you're holding, or something. There's things that's the give, and then it naturally should move to, well, I show you these things. Are you interested? And of course, if someone says no, but don't push it. It's timing. I think it also depends upon the product you're selling. If you're selling a product which is highly automated, all this is less important. But if you're selling a complex enterprise sales, you need to think about the psychology of the person receiving, and that it can't be, I've got a great product. I want to tell you about my product, and this is amazing. These features are incredible. It has to be well, what do you care about? Let me share some value of I understand you, and this is why I think how I can help you execute on what you want to accomplish.
I love it. I wanted to get one more data point from you.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So the last data point is we were looking at timeline risk. And this is where we analyze the different meetings, looking for the words postpone, delay, anything that talks about deals getting pushed out. And for the week of May 4th, it only shows up in 1.5% of calls. So it's held steady. It's still a small percentage of the overall opportunities. But from a coaching standpoint and from sales objections, how do you coach people today to work through these types of challenges?
About it said how deals being the sales cycle, is that really what you're talking about here?
That's right.
Yeah. So I think a common point I've seen out there is sales cycles are typically doubling, and that starts actually at the board level. Too often times that salespeople are given marching orders of change, go for it. But you need to set the expectations at the C level. And there's almost it should be a recognition of this of the VCs you're working with that things have changed. So that's the sort of starting point. Is that at the board level, share with the insights what's happening on the ground, and then set realistic expectations, and then be able to constantly inform everyone in the organization, because people in these times, you mentioned earlier on, these are changing so fast. The CFO needs to understand as much as the head of products, as the CEO, and as the chairman of the board, all need to understand what's happening on the ground, so we can adjust the overall company. So it's the listening component of sales is even more important now than it ever was, because it's not just listening to the customer and how quick can you close to hit your goal. It's listening to the customer so the whole company can understand how to manage these troubling times.
I mean, that's what led to us kicking off the briefing, was exactly that, which is how do we listen to the market right now and share this and realize that people are doing remarkable work right now and things are coming back, and it's not all easy, but we're seeing some great work out of people. Maybe one last final comment, Ian. Is there anything unique you've seen about motivating people? It's tricky. We're all at home. We're not getting the recharge that we're used to having. Have
Right.
you heard of any, or are you demonstrating any tactics to keep people inspired right now?
Well, I can tell you one I did yesterday. So,
I love it.
Yesterday we had this concept, we'd all do a dance off of 5 seconds and then point to the left. And now I've made a video of all of us dancing and pointing to the next person. So it's having fun. It's just making fun during these times. I look a complete fool, I'm sure, but I'm having fun.
I love it. Well, I'm glad I asked you that question. I had no idea where you'd go with that. But Ian, I appreciate it. Thanks for kicking off Tuesday with us, sharing these awesome insights. Are your 450 tactics available for people to come download these or look at these?
Yeah, so the way is to reach out to me at ian@antler.co, or connect on me on LinkedIn, Ian Foley on LinkedIn. Either way, message me. I'm happy to engage with you and share some of these insights to folks out there. Have a good one.
Love it. Thanks, Ian. Cheers.